There we go. Haha. Yay!
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, welcome to Easier Habits Live, your 8 a.m. Central Business live stream. I'm Alec from Easier Habits, a business growth consultant.
And I am Meg. I am a global English communication coach. And I'm going to stop it right there. So.
That's okay. You can dive right into the communication.
Okay,
tip.
I was like, I'm just going to, yeah. I don't know where I was going with that sentence. Okay. I was actually going to go right into the communication tip because I was thinking like, ooh, I get to talk about mirroring today. Mm-hmm. So mirroring, I'm going to, right?
All right.
That's so cute. Mirroring is really interesting. It is originally the way that our brains learn. So when we're babies, we have these things called mirror neurons that pick up on our environment, various stimuli, whether they be visual or auditory or kinesthetic or smell or whatever. I don't think you can reproduce a smell. But anyways, especially visual things and audio things. And as we see other people make certain expressions, right, and say certain words, we will start to create patterns in our mind that help us to recreate those as well. So as our parents are smiling at us, right, it takes babies a little bit to figure this out, but then they'll start smiling back. And as the baby figures that out, the parents get super excited and give a lot of positive feedback, and the baby realizes, oh, this is a good thing. I'm going to keep doing this. That's how language works as well. We hear words and we reproduce them, and with positive feedback that we've done the right thing, we continue saying those same words. Now, this happens particularly with families in those groups, but it can be used in a lot of other ways. People are generally predisposed to feel more comfortable with others who look and act like them, right? Because that's kind of where we learn from. And people who act differently, historically could have been from a different tribe or something like that, that might have been dangerous. And so while that can create a big divide between people, you can also use it as a communication tool. Because if you are mirroring somebody's facial expressions and body position and just kind of like their temperament, they're more likely to feel comfortable with you than if you are just doing whatever. So you have to do it in a way though that's a little bit more subtle. So if you are talking with one person face to face, and they go like this and you go like that, and then they switch to this and you switch to this, every single time, that's a little bit much, right? But small shifts, right? If they go like this, and then you can kind of go back and, maybe like up or, something like that. And don't do it right after they do, but, within 30 seconds or something like that. If they're leaning in, you lean in, right? If they're leaning back, you can lean back. And things like that will help that person just naturally feel more comfortable with you. And as I said, this isn't just body position, it's also temperament. If they're talking really loudly, you can talk loudly. That's great. If they're quiet, you might want to quiet down because you want to match that person to make them more comfortable, and psychologically then that communication can happen a lot easier. That was not a very clear explanation, but yes, that is what mirroring is.
Right. You can make someone more comfortable, feel like you're part of their tribe by matching what they do. And I do think you get more bang for your buck in terms of tone and volume.
Oh, yeah.
And like leaning and body orientation, which are subtle things enough that they won't consciously trigger like the weirdness factor of like, this person's doing the same thing I'm doing.
Yes, you don't want to do that.
Right.
That's weird.
Yeah. But, for some of the other stuff, like whether you cross your arms or legs or whatever, doing that 30 seconds after someone else is usually not that noticeable. I've heard people even like recommend trying to match their breathing. And I'm like, that would just distract me. I feel like maybe if you're really, really good at this, maybe there's some like marginal gain from doing that. But a lot of it's probably going to be from the the kind of the basic and the core things of the speed and volume of talking, body orientation, and leaning in and whatnot. I think the one thing on top of that is sometimes you do want to change their state. This is something as a coach, and we'll get into if someone's talking about having a difficult like a potential confrontation, a potentially argumentative conversation. Then we'll talk about how to keep that calm, and some of that is words, but some of that is remembering to slow down your breathing and quiet things down, or like match their pitch and slowly bring your pitch or your volume down a little bit so that you can calm things down. So you can also intentionally do that in terms of like matching someone and then adjusting downward or upward, if you want them to be more excited, get more energy into that, right?
Yeah.
Because if there's a room full of people who are not energetic and you come in at 11, then then they'll be like, who is this person? Whereas if you match their energy level, their 5 or whatever it is, and then kind of step up a little bit, that is a way that you can bring them with you on the journey of being more excited or happy. So there's a lot of fun things that you can play with once you get comfortable matching somebody's level. And then thinking about where you want to go with that conversation.
Yeah, that's really fun.
So, all right. Well, we are continuing to do ads. I admittedly got sidetracked yesterday because I was doing video stuff, and I feel like the rule of thumb is if you're doing anything new in video or websites, just like expect it to take the whole day. Right. I was exporting multiple clips at once, and for some reason that messed with the audio, and so the audio I could do just fine when it exported as a single clip. I had to dive into settings and try a bunch of different things when I was exporting multiple clips, and I'm like, couldn't it just be the same?
Right? One would hope.
So there was some of that. There's some of my playing with the red balance on our videos to dial it down a little bit. I feel like
I think this looks really good today.
All right, yeah. Anyway, so
I don't look sunburned.
Right.
Which, I mean, I have a pink tinge to my, to my skin, so yeah, but this looks good.
Yeah, I had to change the hue, not only the saturation, and so anyway, so yeah, video stuff. It kind of took over the day, and I have to refocus and realize like, okay, at this point, that was helpful. I had a goal of getting certain stuff done so I could help our 3rd grader be my video editing minion.
And he's really learning how to do it.
He is so really awesome. Learning how to do it. I have to work with him at his level, and so like yesterday he had a hard time finding the clips, and he was like, I just want to get out of here. So like, fine, we'll call it for the day. Yep. But he can listen. He can spot the difference between the waveforms and slice and whatnot. And so my goal is now to get him into the whole process, like opening the program himself, dragging in the new file. And then exporting it, etc., or using the template I was just setting up yesterday, right, where I've fixed the errors and it's all set up, where he could just use that same saved project and all of the same export settings, so that he doesn't have to mess with them. So that's why I was going through that whole thing. Yeah,
and just to preface this, a while back we wanted our kids to try something that was new, where they had to learn new skills and work at it, because that's a good thing.
They spend a lot of time fighting, and so it was just my question as to if we could engage them in something they enjoyed but that was challenging. They could redirect all of that loose energy from like being bored and whatnot into something else.
Yeah, and so we asked them what it was that they wanted to do. We gave them some options of things that they could potentially work on. And you had talked to him about, business stuff. And the older one, went for that. He was like, yeah, I want to do business stuff. That sounds cool. Like, even though there were plenty of other things to do. And so then it was thinking about ways in which he could do stuff with us. And that turned out to be a really great one.
Yeah, well, and I guess this could be part of the business tip later, but the idea of when you want to scale or bring somebody on, identifying repeatable patterns
Yes.
is huge, and it's even more critical when you're working with a third grader. He's like kind of tickled pink that as far as I can tell, like media editing is at least a middle school skill, generally speaking. But he's technically capable of it. Like kids do complex stuff on phones and games all the time. It's just often we don't introduce them to those things, or they don't have the internal motivation. And so now that he does, I'm trying to figure out how to break that process down for him. So yeah, that was a rabbit hole. And then today I'm basically recommitting to taking the research I did on Tuesday, refining my checklist. I have all the same voices in my head about like, oh, this isn't perfect yet, and whatnot. And to be honest, I have to admit, like, I never want to give somebody, even for free, something terrible. But at the same time, like, actually my core business purpose is just to see if the offer is important. And so like what I need more than anything is to offer somebody something. And if they come to me later and say, this is awful because I wanted X, and I didn't get it, that's actually great, because then I know exactly what they need because they told me, rather than guessing what they need. And so like even if I put it out there and it wasn't as ideal as I wanted it to be, that's actually much better situation than
for sure
the holding on to it forever. But all of those things go through my head too.
Yep. Well, yeah. And I was gonna say something, but my brain stopped working, so never mind.
That's okay. How's your advertising journey going?
It's going well. So I was able to finish my template yesterday. Huzzah! I'm just finishing up right now, putting the example thing of the template in there, and then we're gonna go ahead and get that sent out and posted, and I'm gonna start sharing it, and it's gonna be great, and it's gonna be fabulous. I probably would have finished it yesterday, but again, life exists, and so coming up with Christmas, had to go grocery shopping and stuff like that yesterday. Went to go grocery shopping at Costco and Walmart in December. Not fun, but I'm also going out of town this weekend, and so just like all of the things, you have to take care of stuff, getting kids stuff for their parties and presents for their teachers, and making sure that everything is organized and arranged. And then one other really exciting thing happened yesterday, which is it looks like I'm gonna get to go to Tokyo in February. Yay! So I was invited a while back to do this, and just where we are right now trying to get clients and everything, it was not looking like it was going to be a very good investment of my time. And so, we were kind of saying, okay, well, maybe not right now. And it was sad, but I was okay with it because I'm learning hard for things like this. And then our live stream just restarted.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, well. We'll see what happens. This might be an interesting day. So, So we figured out a way that it could be a win-win for all of us, because one, I do love Japan. I wish I didn't love it so much, but it feels like going home to me. So I'll get to go there. I'll get to be very helpful to this woman I love, and has an amazing project she's working on that will potentially bring money at some point. Although that's not why I'm doing this. That's just kind of a vague hope. But also with the idea that, okay, if my focus in particular is still on this thing, right? Yeah. Then I can continue that, what is inertia? There we go. That I've started to gain since realizing that, Tokyo's not going to happen. It really did light a fire under my butt. So
well, and this was a conversation that I highlighted on live stream that your month was completely taken over by 2 events that didn't get you any clients.
Yep.
And I kind of knew that going into that. When we started our live stream, we'd already planned that I wasn't gonna axe those.
Yeah.
But that where you were putting all of your effort was going into what you enjoyed doing it, and none of it was going into your business priorities.
Well, and that is perfectly valid, because that's kind of sometimes how I live my life. And sometimes those things align, and then frequently they don't. And that's one of the things that I really want to work on in my life, is making sure that the things that I focus on, or where I intentionally put my energy, is also those things that are going to further improve myself, provide for our family, and have those positive benefits rather than kind of the immediate high, right? You know, we talk about like dopamine overload and everything, because it's easy just to get sidetracked by all of the distractions in the world, but then those have a much more temporary payoff than you know, what might be a little bit harder at first, but then ultimately more rewarding. So I'm learning to say no to the marshmallow.
From the marshmallow experiment,
Over
where
the
they
marshmallow experiment.
tested kids, and they found that kids, they offered kids 1 marshmallow now or 2 marshmallows at the end of the experiment if they could wait, and the kids who could wait, like years later, were more successful. So like it predicted their ability to wait for a greater reward, predicted their success for like a good chunk of their success for later in life. So it's a pretty famous experiment.
But see, the kids were guaranteed a second marshmallow.
Yeah.
One of my issues, like if I were guaranteed a second marshmallow, I could wait. Like I could wait forever. But if I don't have the guarantee,
someone gave you a roadmap. If you do X amount of work, I guarantee you will get 10 clients.
Right? That's so much safer, and like I can do that. But when I don't have that, and it's a little bit more abstract, that's tricky. And so it's learning to put in the work for the sake of the work, and, you know, following what people do and learning the things so that you can empower yourself to have the effect that you want.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have these morning check-ins, and I think one of the shifts from the first month where I knew you were already going to be focused on the trips, and so we just tried to make as much of those as we can, and kind of start doing some of the thought experiments that would help anyway. Like, what's your pitch? Who are you? What are you offering? To what avatar? I mean, all of that stuff, you know, was still relevant to any marketing thing. So we were building that, but we have identified the higher priority piece. But what are you going to do that's going to help you keep focus on that? Because you're going to have other people too, planning events, you know, asking you to be places.
Well, so there is one thing that I'm very proud of myself that I haven't actually told you yet. So the last several years I've helped a lot with college applications. And worked with this wonderful woman, and helping people from China apply to schools. And I had one more client that I started with last year, and we finished her cycle up this year. And I did everything that I had promised and then some, and I felt really good about that. And she came back, or the client came back to me a few days ago asking, hey, now I want to apply for some more schools. Can we meet? And I thought, well, I've already done this job. I already did everything that I promised. And and so then I talked to my associate that I'd worked with and told her the situation. And she asked if I could do it, for X amount of money. And I had to think about that because, again, it's that immediate reward versus long-term thing. Because basically I knew that if I said yes, it would completely monopolize my time and it would not be worth the money that was offered at all. But also it's, not worth it for them to pay me what it would be worth when they could have somebody else do it, if that makes sense. And so I said no. And it was hard to be like, look, I did everything. I worked really hard on that. I put in so many hours, probably more than I really needed to. And so, it was actually one of the first times I think I've said no to an offer for a client. So knowing that I can do that, like that was
practicing
nice.
Saying no is a great way to help you preserve your priorities.
Yeah. But then the other thing is, I really am liking this offer that we've started putting together with this lead magnet. And so I think if I'm able to kind of keep that going and then lean into some of these other contacts I have, to spread this ad out. I also might be able to sort of leverage the Tokyo trip, saying, hey, I'm going to be in Japan. If you want to have like because I won't be working 24/7. I'll be working most of the time, but I might have some time or something like that. Where I could meet up with people. And so, hey, if you want to, do this thing, we can get you ready, or
special limited time offer.
Right? Yes, exactly. So, or something, but some way to, to make those things work for me rather than against me.
Sure.
To keep me focused on those clients and all of that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. Like I said, saying no is kind of critical, right? And it could have brought in money, but not the rate you want, not the clients and the type of work you want to be doing. And so...
And it really would have completely monopolized my time.
Right. And there's a space for that if you're getting started and you're going to earn enough money to like seriously reinvest in the business you want to do afterwards. But yeah, if you have to be able to analyze that. And I think that is like progress in terms of looking at that strategically. Like, how does this fit into the bigger picture?
Yeah.
And then there is a power in being able to have an offer, and we'll see. This might grow, this might evolve. The offer itself might evolve. We might decide the pitch template is not the perfect thing. We'll see. Very often the first thing doesn't. But yeah, it gives you that momentum to start learning, and if it's not the thing, it might lead you to the next thing, etc. So, figuring out once you have like a discrete thing to offer people in the world, like that really does fundamentally change your business versus just saying like, I have a service.
Yes.
Right?
For sure.
And so really leveraging that, I think, will be transformative. One thing I'd just point out too from what you like, this whole pattern is there is also a mindset of like, how do you value your time?
Yes.
And once you said no to a cool opportunity, like, that's great, but like, I actually need to make money, then your partner said, oh, well, how much would it be worth it to bring you out? And it's not like you were trying to get money out of her.
No,
but,
and she understands completely.
But that's also, I think, a byproduct of when you are available all the time to someone or anyone for free, like, there are a lot of people who just won't pay you who might. Once you say, I am not available all the time. Yeah. Right? Oh, well, I really need you. Could I pay you?
Yeah.
Right? And so that's one of the things, if you're at a very early stage where you're doing stuff for free, I am not a proponent of doing anything for free. This was an earlier business tip. You should always do it to invest in your business. Now, you can do things to learn if you know specifically what you're going to learn and why that is a better opportunity to learn it doing it for that person rather than just doing it for yourself. Like, that's a valid decision. But if it's something you already know how to do and you're just doing it for them for free, you're probably not going to be learning a lot, right? You can do it to build your business. You can document the process or create, something like a template out of your work that you can then use to other people. You can get feedback on that from the people you're working with. You can get a testimonial, etc. So you could do that as an investment in your business, even if you're not working for money. You can barter, right? You can trade services. That's also not a bad thing. Like, if you're someone who, actually in this way, it's like, maybe I should find someone who does marketing and just like barter, who needs a coach. Like, that would actually be a delightful combination, and probably I would get more than my coaching value out of that, actually, if I found someone who's really good at marketing.
That's a great
someone who's
idea.
Good at sales, but actually I'm good at that. I don't have a problem selling people who want my services.
Yeah, it's the marketing part.
It's the finding and reaching out to people who want my services that's trickier.
Yeah.
And so anyway, there's all these different things you can do that are not money arrangements, but like, when you set the mindset that my time is valuable, then like, people pick that up in surprising ways, right? There's unforeseen consequences to actually making the decision that your time is valuable, rather than you're desperate and you'll do anything.
Yeah.
That you'll I don't want to say law of attraction, that you'll attract people if you're desperate. You'll attract people who will take advantage of that, but like you will find yourself in relationships repeatedly with people who are comfortable asking and not giving. If you are comfortable relatively, or at least familiar with giving and not asking, right?
Yeah.
So, I think a good business tip kind of related to some of this too, as something as I'm journaling about where I find sources of friction. And I've dipped my toes in the water, marketed here and there, but I am by no means an expert, and I'm still very much on the early phases of my path to learning to love marketing. That's how I try and frame it for myself.
Yeah.
So the night before last, I was actually writing about my resistance for or how stressful I find it to get Christmas gifts and gift giving in general. But like last night was marketing. Like, why is marketing stressful? Because a lot of times I just barrel through things that are difficult. Like, I can make myself do it, but I don't actually improve the process, right? I'm not invested in the process of what I'm doing. When I just, grit your teeth and, bear it and all of that. But what I find is, when I actually journal, and this is the reason why I'm focusing on journaling on hard things, is I identify like what are the underlying problems. And it was interesting. So as I walked back with marketing, the challenge that I saw is similar to kind of what you said, which is like, oh, this is a new style of marketing. This is a new value proposition. Will it be worth anything? Or
right.
will,
the ambiguity.
Right. And it's not that I know it won't be successful, but there is that part of my brain that says, like, don't bother because it's not going to be. And, I was trying to interrogate that. I'm like, is there some horrible incidents of marketing in my childhood that caused me to hate marketing? That caused me to think marketing was worthless? And there isn't, right? A lot of times when people are trying to, like, psychoanalyze themselves or going to a therapist, they're trying to, like, when did you,
right?
When was this negative situation? I don't think that's the case with marketing because most people don't do it.
No, I remember having to do, like, sales in elementary school for fundraisers, and I hated those wrapping paper sales and stuff like that.
Yeah, going door to door.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some low level things that might influence, like going door to door for various school fundraisers or.
But I hated
things.
that back then. It's not like I had any negative
Right. No, people were generally nice.
Yeah.
I mean, or not there. And I didn't have bad experiences. I was just like, that was social anxiety.
Yeah.
And marketing is even kind of different because it's like, I don't have to knock on anyone's door, like, right? Like if I'm advertising through this. So it's like, there isn't a place where I could say like, this is the thing that gave me a phobia of marketing or resistance to marketing. What I realized is it's just a big unknown.
Yeah.
And it's a big unknown that I don't have a story for, I don't have a map for. And just by default, what I fill that big unknown with is anxiety. And so that is, so there are things are going to be hard, where you have negative self-talk. And we were kind of talking about that last night, about like doing the hard thing, releasing something that you feel not 100% comfortable with because you've been trained by school and other things that like, to try and shoot for 100% and, every fault is, amplified. If it's not 100%, it's not good enough or whatever, knocked down for all of your mistakes, etc. So you're kind of, you kind of know, like I've been trained to think negatively about that. But I think for a lot of people, because they haven't done marketing, it's just a big unknown. And I guess with our negativity bias, we just fill that with a default anxiety. And I realized like probably all I'm missing is a positive story there, that like the reason why I find like, okay, this is going to be, well, I start to subconsciously tell myself when I sit down to market, like, all right, this is going to be challenging, this is going to be tough, rather than like, this is an interesting game to play, I wonder what I can learn today, etc.
Curiosity.
Like having that curiosity and a playful attitude, like, right, this could be fun. There's no reason it couldn't be. It's just my default is the anxiety. And so the only way to combat that is intentionally like identify the big unknowns. What are the big unknowns? The things, and these are often things you're putting off because you don't know how to do them. Like, what's the different story I tell myself? And so, I have not completed my transformation in that area, but I am thinking through, like, what does that look like? What does a story around marketing look like? There's Alex Hormozy would say, my story is I am whatever my business needs me to be, and I'm a marketer now. And I'm like, that's not really motivating for me.
Yeah.
But, other aspects of, I work with people that have to deal with dysfunctional or absentee co-founders or C-suite execs, etc. So, like, I deal kind of with the aftermath of bad partnerships or hires or other things. So I really want to help people prevent that.
Yeah.
And I know there's gonna be a lot of people who aren't interested. And the interesting thing, as I observe my mind does chalk those up. That's a failure. And I'm like, no, that's just a non-result, which is different.
Different.
Right?
Non-result is different from a failure.
Right? But, like, it is interesting, like, where I observe that. And it's just the question of, like, the question is, how many of those non-results do I have to go through to get the results? And, when I frame it as, like, well, how much do I care about helping, prevent somebody go through, like, the years of challenge they're signing up for when they haven't really thought through a partnership, where they're signing on to a partnership because there's one aspect of it that seems like a good opportunity at a time, but they haven't really considered everything about what this will entail. And, even if they make the same decision having done the checklist, at least they'll be more informed and more in control. They'll be more prepared to deal with those difficulties, even if I don't save someone from a terrible partnership. So framing it that way, like, how many non-results am I willing to go through to learn how to help and reach and help these people? And helping is easier, again, because I'm already working with people who are down the line, so I can give them, like, a future rundown of like, this is what that partnership might look like if you have these concerns, because I've seen that, right? And so it really is just like the, how much of this am I willing to do to learn how to reach these people, and just reframing it as that story. It's not that I consciously thought I couldn't do it before, but just realizing, like, my lack of story was just being filled with anxiety and kind of the implication that this is going, kind of like you said, like, I don't know the results, therefore the results aren't going to be worth it. Which is what your brain tells you a lot by default with big unknowns. Yep.
And you could also amplify your power by listening to some of the Frozen 2 soundtrack, the Into the Unknown. Yes!
All right.
You're the one who sang it. It wasn't me this time.
All right. Okay. Let me summarize that business tip, because that was long. All right. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. So, like, business tip, right? You've got some unknowns. Probably just take a look at the big things you've been avoiding, and chances are one of those things you've been avoiding it because it is a big unknown that feels uncomfortable, and you're naturally filling it with your anxiety. Well, think about different stories you could tell yourself there. And stories that we talk about, in terms of, this is all just a diagnostic test. This is all for learning. Or what would it look like? This is the Tim Ferriss one I like. What would it look like if this were easy and fun? That's a great one.
That is a great one.
For reframing things. Like, what would marketing look like if it were easy and fun? And so that brings a little bit more of your sense of, like, playfulness and personality into it. If you're feeling, I kind of jokingly put the default title on this is, like, the ads will continue until morale improves, like the flogging will continue until morale improves. And so it's like, okay, that is kind of a nod to the fact that, there's a part of me and a part of a lot of people that has this really negative connotation with ads. But at a basic level, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, that does come across. So fill your unknowns with a positive story so that you can enjoy it, so that other people can see you enjoying it, and you will find those tasks easier, and you will find people more open to working with you.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
All right. One of the things I realized from last live stream that I meant to tell you before the stream is that for some reason, if I just click end stream right at the end of the stream, it will get, like, cut off. So I said, I think my last video, it says, until next time, cut. So this time, I'm going to go through my closing spiel, and then we're going to stare awkwardly at the camera so that I don't cut the video off too soon, okay?
Okay.
All right. Until next time, make big changes, one small habit at a time.
Bye. Awkward stare.